Waves are an exciting subject, and I really like this reference that shows the movement of the water and light. So today I'm going to show you step by step how I paint waves. I know that I want the main area of the wave to be in this third, so I'm going to take a sponge, wet down the back of my paper, and I'm going to wet down the front of my paper. Now the top of the wave, the crest of this wave here, I'm going to leave just a little bit of dry paper, and I'll show you why in a minute. I'm going to just lay in some simple gray. I'm going to use some lavender, a little bit of raw sienna. We're just going to get things started with that light tone. And this is the lighter areas of the wave that aren't white. Go ahead and mix in a little bit of cerulean, and we are going to build up strength as we go and get darker and darker along the way. Using a little bit of cerulean, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and we just know that we are going to get much darker. We have to remember that this is a process, and we are going to build and build and build the strength. Okay, inside the wave, we see a little bit of this yellowish green color, the sun shining through some of this water. Let's use some quinacridone gold, cobalt turquoise, maybe some cadmium yellow. A warm, light green color is what we're looking for here. And I'm going to go ahead and use the side of the brush and try to get some dry brush marks or some texture of the paper around some of the white areas of the waves. And this I can go ahead and connect in with this wash. There's a little bit of that warmth reflecting down into the water. There's a little bit of that up here in this part of the wave. And I want to think about the edges of this. I want to soften any of that. And I'm doing that with a damp, clean brush. I also like to keep a paper towel in my hand, just in case I need to take some moisture off of my brush. Still keeping everything nice and loose. Okay, and now we're going to start building up a little bit more strength. I'm going to rinse my brush off. I'm going to get some more lavender, cerulean, maybe some neutral tint. And let's drop in a little more strength over here. Let's use some cerulean. Get that blue up here. I'm going to use a little bit of lavender, neutral tint for some gray down here. Breaking up this side of the waves a little bit. I'm going to take that same mixture up here. Now we can get a little darker, get back to some of this rich blue that I have. And we're just going to continue to build this strength up as we go. Okay, let's use some lavender. Ooh, that's way too much. Some cerulean. Ultramarine blue. We can get deeper and richer as we move into this part of the painting. And we'll go back over this even again. We can cover all this. We know it's going to be darker. Keep reloading that brush. A lot of this is going to fade as it dries. Watercolor fades maybe about 20% from wet to dry. Of course, that depends on the pigment you're using and how much water you're using, but we need to compensate for that fading. I can leave a little bit of this light behind. Okay, we're getting this nice blend of wet and wet, soft colors. So as I'm moving forward in the painting, I'm using less water on my brush and more paint. I'm going to take my finger and just kind of soften some of those edges. I'm going to get some neutral tint, ultramarine blue, and we're just going to keep strengthening this up. And we can mix that up a little bit, add a little bit of cobalt turquoise Nice bluish green. Just keep mixing up your colors. Add some variety. See how we're starting to build up the light? Slowly but surely we're getting there with the right strength. Okay, let's add a little more strength on the interior of the wave here. I'm using a smaller synthetic brush now. Holds less water. Quinacridone gold, raw sienna, cobalt turquoise. And I'm kind of using the side of my brush to give me some broken edges. See that little bit of texture there? Okay, we're going to use a little bit darker green, a little stronger mixture. I'm being careful because I'm trying to preserve the light as much as I can. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of neutral tint, cobalt turquoise, a little bit of raw sienna. Leaving some broken areas. The paper's still damp, so I'm getting these lovely soft edges that are so important. Thicker paint, less water in this area. Mix some blue in with that. Some of the blue that I have here on my palette. Maybe a little more cerulean. I'm going to need some more strength down here. Once again, like I said, we're just building the strength as we go. And it's still damp, so I can get some soft edges. I'm going to take this brush that can hold a little more paint. And I want to get a very rich mixture. Neutral tint, cerulean, ultramarine. And I'm going to essentially cover most of this here. Adding a little bit of cobalt turquoise to that. Okay, that dark really helps push the light a little more. Gonna mix in some cobalt turquoise, some raw sienna into what's already on my brush. If you get a little too dark, you can kind of soften with your thumb. I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna come back in and possibly add just a few more little darks, some little ripples in the water, and I might use a touch of gouache just to get more of that kind of ocean spray into the air and get that feeling as well. My paper is probably 90% dry. It's dry enough to move into the next phase. Now when I take a step back and I look at this wave, I'm pretty happy with it. I think I need a couple more darks to kind of bring some attention over into this area, and then a few little lines to kind of give a little more definition to the movement of the wave, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to get some raw sienna, cobalt turquoise, And like I mentioned, I'm using the side of my brush to get a little bit of a broken edge in these areas. Soften that with my finger at the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit of this gray. There's some of that lavender and raw sienna that I mixed in. But I felt like it needed just a little more of a finished feeling to it. Always step back, squint at your scene, take a look, assess, think through your next move before you do it, because watercolor isn't extremely forgiving. You want to try and think through the things before you do it. Okay, the last thing I want to do is think about a few little highlights with some gouache. And I don't want gouache all over my entire painting. I'm going to lay that here because these are the main areas where I want the gouache to splatter. I'm going to get some gouache on the tip of my brush. And this is some ivory white Holbein gouache. I'm just going to do this until I get some splatters on my painting. A little bit up here. I'm not going to go crazy with this, but this is a nice little natural effect to break up some areas. Get a few little highlights in. All right, there we have it. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Keep on working at it, keep on painting, and I'll see you next time. Have you ever been really excited about a painting and you get all set up, you find that right reference that you're excited about, and then it's time to go and you feel lost? You ever had that experience? You just are having a hard time finding consistency. Some of your paintings turn out, some of your paintings don't turn out, and you're not really sure why. Well, I have a free resource that I want to give to you today that can help exactly with these problems. My 5 steps to plan a successful watercolor painting. I walk you through the crucial planning phase of your painting that will help you understand what you're going to paint first, second, and third. The planning is really so important, especially in watercolor. This medium is harder to correct. It's so immediate. So having that plan is very important. I send you a PDF that you can download. And the great thing about this is you can have it on your phone, you could print it out, and you can take a look at these crucial planning steps before you start each painting to ensure that you're thinking through these important things as you get started. You can download this right now before you start your next painting. All you have to do is follow this link here and download my 5-step guide to planning a successful watercolor painting.